Howdy, soldiers. As we know from the Queen Holly Black, there are no chicken nuggets in Fairyland, but I know a guy. I'm taking all of you on a trip to Fairyland today because for some reason I can't find where I put my Halloween decorations. Someone called the Scooby-Doo gang because the next Halloween special is going to be filmed in my apartment. Halloween is less than a week away, and if you're like me, you're excited for peak spooky time, but you're also somebody that doesn't really like horror because horror is scary. But because every book blogger worth their salt is doing some type of Halloween reads, spooky reads, horror book video, and I've done so many Halloween reads videos in the past that it was going to be expected, you know? And I want to give a little razzle-dazzle. I want to give the public something that they want, but that's a little bit off. It's just what I love in fairy lore, where you look at something and you're like, something about that's right, but something about that's wrong. So for the 2022 A Model Who's Read Halloween Reads video, let's get nasty. That's right, friends. Today I want to talk about the grossest books that I have read this year. To me, body horror is like a different category of horror. Like, I don't like psychological thrillers. I'm not a huge fan of gore. So, like, serial killers, absolutely not. Zombies, get the hell out of here. But, like, do I want to hear about a cursed forest that turns everyone's veins into rot? Absolutely. Sign me the hell up for that option package. And because I've read a lot of gross books this year that I really, really enjoyed, if you were like me and you want something gross and macabre, but you don't necessarily want, like, what's a horror movie? Scream? Like, if you don't want Scream level of, you know, scary, maybe check some of these out. I've never watched Scream, so that might be a bad example, but you get it. So if you're ready for a video full of gothics, gore, and gross nature magic, grab a drink, and maybe don't grab a snack, because we're about to get disgusting. So first up, I'm gonna use this video as an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite books yet again, and that is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. If I could describe this book in one word, it would be gross. Also, prime example of why you lock your doors on solstice so creatures like me don't get in. This follows the three Hollow sisters who, when they were 10 years old, went missing off the streets of Edinburgh for 1 month. And when they came back, their eyes turned black, their hair turned white, and the media devoured them as they tried to figure out where they had gone with no memory of their encounter. And now 10 years later, we follow Iris and Vivi as they try to track down Grey, their third sister, who has gone missing once again under some darkly enchanting, mysterious circumstances. This is one of my favorite fae novels because it really encompasses everything that I love about fairy folklore. How it is human, but not quite. How the natural and the unnatural come together and it's this weird, like, writhing, organic mess. This book is about flowers bursting from your eyes and bleeding ants and smelling rot and finding small bits of prophecy tucked into folds of clothing. Also, writers, listen up. This is a great case study of how to use words to your advantage to really creep out the reader. The way that she describes normal things in unnatural ways, like how dirt on the bottom of a hem made it look like a girl had crawled out of her own grave. Like, you could just say it was dirty, but then you wouldn't get how weird and eerie and unsettling this book is. There's a line here about a bad smell that was a stench that exploded into the air and hung on the trees like necklaces. So yeah, Samhain is upon us. Don't fuck with fairies. I'd highly recommend this book. Similarly, another book that has beautiful, unsettling writing that I freaking loved, that I would give anything, almost anything, any fairies are listening, almost anything to read again, and specifically to read again in the fall, and that is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. If I could describe this book in one word, it would be disturbing. This is a gothic horror retelling of the Juniper Tree, where our main character Marlinchin and her two sisters are being kept in this crumbling Victorian mansion by their xenophobic and magician father, but at night she sneaks out and starts a relationship with the new male principal ballet dancer, and as their love grows, the curse on her father strengthens and darkens, and she needs to choose between blood and desire and magic. While House of Hollow focuses the horror on nature, Juniper and Thorn focuses on body horror and horror of the body. So there is a lot in here about food and eating disorders and body dysmorphia. There are these twisted gardens full of glass apples that will flush you like wine, and bruised plums that are poisonous to anybody except Marlinchin. It's full of poison and rot and really getting deep down and personal with what makes you a monster. Yet again, fantastic word choice if you really want to creep out your reader, because the way that she describes things are just so twisted and unsettling. I still shiver of the way that she describes the father being thin and how his wrist bones stand out like bubbles in cake batter. And at one point she's describing one of the sister's collarbones as two knives under her skin, and it's like, why would you say it like that? Plus, because this is a magical family, though it doesn't break the fourth wall, there is a lot in here on knowing that you're part of a cycle, or like looking for omens because you know that your world is a fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale gone wrong. So all this added tension along with perfect word choice just keeps you on edge the whole time. Like, you cannot feel comfortable while reading this novel, and that's what I loved about it. 10 out of 10 spookies. Make sure that you check trigger warnings beforehand. Also, my mom got me this. It's very cute. It lights up. So mom, this is for you. Number 3 is one of my favorite books that I have read this year, and also one of the most disgusting novels that I have ever laid my eyes on. I never knew that you could have so much body horror in one book, but here we are. If I could describe this book in one word, it would be visceral, and that is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you have religious trauma, if you have a plague phobia, if you don't like body horror, you're not gonna like this. But I was raised atheist and triple vaxxed and don't mind listening to somebody puking up their liquefied internal organs, so I thought that it was great. Hell Followed With Us follows the aftermath of an apocalypse where our main character Benji is a trans boy who has escaped his cult that has infected him with this disease plague that's going to turn him into a monster of biblical proportions. But as he escapes, he runs into a group of queer teens who take him in, and he's trying to hide what he is becoming while also trying to figure out a way to escape the cult and save the world. Truly, I did not know what I was getting into when I started this book. This is a sinewy, bubbling, pulsating, liquefying masterpiece of a novel. This is like gross. Like, this is like super freaking gross. This book is what inspired this entire video, but it also has such fantastic themes of family and friendship and rage and survival, but also about accepting and embracing the monster that's inside of us all. It's okay to admit it, we're all little monsters on the inside. This is full of black blood and eyes and teeth and queer found family, and it's one of the most unique books that I've ever read. Next up are 2 books that I currently do not have physical copies of, so I'm just gonna wave my hands here, and editing Rachel, the genius that she is, will put a photo in. Number 4 is truly a bookworm's worst nightmare. If I could describe this book in one word, it would be squishy, and that is Book of Living Secrets by Madeleine Roux. This follows 2 best friends who happen to love this fantasy book that almost no one else seems to know about, and when they do an incantation gone wrong, they are transported into the world of their favorite book. However, it is a twisted nightmare horror version of the story, and they're trying to figure out a way to get sent back to their own world. Madeleine Roux has created a modern Lovecraftian masterpiece with this. There is always something sinister lurking underneath everybody and situation in this book. There's also some gross, creepy monsters in this, particularly a Cthulhu-type being that is trying to break through dimensions and is using this format medium of books to do so. Like, not my go-to, but, you know, I respect it. As well as some truly horrifying mutated slime beasts that I still don't really want to think about. And the ending of this is definitely the most traditional horror ending of any of these books. And just, don't read this in public. Alright, yeah, I was, and I let a little yelp that everybody in the vicinity of me on public transit looked at me a little weirdly. You guys, the scariest thing just happened. My camera battery died, and I went to get my replacement, and it was also out of battery! Okay, where were we? The other book that I do not physically have a copy of is teeny tiny, and yet still manages to get so much grossness within its pages that it's truly a Christmas miracle. That is the delightfully imaginative novella that is The Border Keeper by Kirsten Hall. And if I could describe this in one word, it would be wet. Our main character is a young man who travels through the desert to meet the Border Keeper, who is a goddess that has been lost to time, who acts as a protector and warden between the dimensions of our world and others. Though he comes asking for a favor, he turns out to have arrived in the middle of a political rebellion between multiple demonic dimensions. This book is less gore and more just plain gross, because we go to multiple demonic dimensions where there are oceans made of not water, there are walls that can breathe, there are people with no faces and hooks for hands. As a somewhat existential, action-packed adventure novella, this has such an imaginative world, and the character connections across dimensions are very well done, and it's really nice to see like the family dynamics come into play and what that means in multiple worlds. Also, this video is going up a little later than I would like it to, like we're a little closer to Halloween than I originally planned to release this video, but I had a crisis and then I needed to take a nap instead of filming last week. So, you know, if you just need like a real quick little creep factor fix before Halloween is upon us, this is nice and short, so this might be the thing to do it with. And lastly is one of my OG favorite book series. It's a bit of an older series, so I don't think it quite gets the love that I think it deserves. Then again, if I could describe this in one word, it would be repulsive. Because Angel Fall by Susan E. is not for the faint of heart nor faint of stomach. This is a YA sci-fi fantasy dystopian biblical apocalypse novel that takes place 6 weeks after a legion of angels descended from the heavens and started to terrorize Earth. When her little sister gets taken by angels, our main character Penryn teams up with Rafe, who is an angel who's had his wings cut off and is on his own path to revenge. The two reluctant allies now travel through a crumbling apocalyptic world, traveling through a lawless city while they try to both find Paige but also figure out why Rafe's legion came to Earth and what plans they have for humanity. Not only is this a biblical horror novel, this is also a medical horror novel. So if you don't like dark fantasy and medical body horror, you're not gonna like this book. Penryn is an OG baddie. She is not a good person. She is there to get her sister and herself out alive and nothing else matters, and hell forbid you stand in her way. And I loved reading about Rafe and the lengths that someone will go to be accepted, but then also learning about their own corruption and their government systems and rebelling. Everybody in here is a bad person who is only out for themselves. It is wonderful. There are some side characters that are truly abhorrent and they steal the show. Damn, I really need to reread this series again. It was so good, especially after Hell Followed With Us. If you like that, read this. And that is that on that. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Please leave down below your own Halloween recommendations and leave me below what your costume's gonna be. I burned myself the other day with my hot glue gun as I was hot gluing my bone crown together. So, all I've been doing for the last 3 days is hemming a 16-foot ruffle and doing bone crafts. So, exciting things going on in the Sargent household. This is not my final costume, but I finally got a pair of ears that actually fit my ears, and I was able to change my earrings out for the first time, and like, oh my god, these are so fun! Don't know if you can tell this, but they're little moths. I'll leave the shop in the description below. Though I am going to be going to a party on the weekend, I will be spending actual Halloween in my house, locking all my doors with, you know, salt on the sills and dishes of milk outside, and just not making any wishes or promises where anyone or anything may hear me. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!